Today, there's so much in our lives that influences us, our environment, the people around us. Sometimes we don't even know what's influencing us, and that's what we're here to talk about. Welcome to the Influence Today podcast with Chet Tart and Terry Lyles.
Welcome back to Influence Today. We're in a brand new studio. We're going to sound a little bit different, and we look a little bit different, and I would imagine it also changes our whole personality and our confidence. That's where influence comes in, because we don't even know what influences us, and sometimes just the environment influences us. And I've always said that before, is that the people you surround yourself with, the room you're in, and everything else. We're at a brand new place. You can see it if you're watching video. It's called Venture X in Plam Beach Gardens. And we're here with a slew of people because everyone in this room wants to influence us, and you want to be influenced. Right. So I'm Chet Tart, and my partner is Terry Lyles. Welcome.
Yep.
And
Great.
we have two guests with us today.
Yes.
We have Chris Steele.
The after 40 guy. Don't leave that out.
The after 40 guy. I was going to put that in there, but I was going to put the actor. Right. You can see him on many, many movies and shows, and good luck finding him. Right. Right. And we have Bill Fowler.
Yeah, I was just washing cars out there in the parking lot,
and we influenced you to come up here.
There you go.
Right.
And so why we're here at Venture X is because we're dealing with some entrepreneurs, and we're dealing with people who are going into a new environment. And Venture X is a new way of finding a place to work. I mean, it's really built a little bit different. What did you guys notice about the place when you came in here?
You know, one of the things we when we came in, when Bill and I used to do some work out in California, and had seen spaces like this and loved it because, man, you go into an environment like this and it is entrepreneurs, it's like-minded people. There's an energy that's here, and at Venture X you have that same energy because you have people, all different types of businesses. Terry, we've talked about this before, how important that is for your own motivation to keep
Correct.
it going.
And it's great to have, hallway conversations, as I say, water cooler conversations. We can walk outside. There's special rooms we can go in and have private phone calls, almost like phone booths with no phones. So you shut the door and you have a little privacy. I like to walk the hallways, so it's kind of hard, and I speak loudly. So, it's great to get in a place where you can kind of sound dense a little bit. So, yeah, it is a functional entrepreneurial office, and that's why we chose to be here, and we're just glad to be able to broadcast from here.
I wanted to ask a question if I could. Can I do that, Chet? I know
you're allowed
it's
to.
your show. It's the only one I'll ask. But Bill,
do I need to raise my hand when I've got a question?
Just don't talk until you're spoken to. But you built a couple of businesses and had, work environments. You had large space in a couple of the insurance companies you did. What did you do? Because that was prior to the idea of this, co-loft space, that type of thing. Were there things that you did to help encourage an environment that had the energy you wanted?
That's a good question. When I first started, the first business I started, I worked, you work from home for a first couple months, and then I realized this is not going to work. I'm not getting much done. I can't compartmentalize. I never can turn the switch off, all of that. And so you got what they called a key man office, where you shared a receptionist and all. This is really the same concept with technology and on steroids, so to speak. And just kind of the energy. Not everyone's wired the same, but majority of people, I think, will get more done when they go into a situation like this. This is probably the fourth one. I've worked out of 3 different ones. This is the fourth one that I've seen, and this is the one I've never seen one that's been designed as well as this place. Yeah. The other ones I've been in, they kind of adapted. It was an office building. This looks like everything was knocked down and they started from scratch. So you have that. Whether it's feng shui, I'm not, I didn't stay in California that long. Yeah, but there's some truths of it, when a woman came and decorated my home, all of a sudden it felt more comfortable and all that, and moved certain things around, and, so this one's pretty unique. This is pretty top notch.
So could you be a little bit more specific, because that's very generic? What did you notice or see that affected your eyes or your feeling or what?
That's a good question. Just walking in from the place, I thought, you're going to see a bunch of stalls like where horses go, and they're all kind. Yeah, but the first thing you do, there's this open deal. There's great lighting. There's all of a sudden, I felt my mood step up. Let's go to work. Everyone's making something happen. So are we. Whatever.
Even sitting at this table, the way it's designed, the chairs are up higher and you feel comfortable about it. So when you walk through the hallways, you see different people working there, and they're all about the same age. Everyone in here is about 30 to 50 years old working at their projects. What did you notice, Terry, when you walked in Venture X?
A similar thing. Bill said, it's kind of an openness, and there's a way to really network and relate to other like-minded people, and that's really powerful. And I think one thing that we've lost over a decade probably in the home office environment is that you're alone. And there's something about synergy that you can never minimize. It's why teams are successful, because they feed off each other, positive and negative, and just talking to each other. Hey, what did you do yesterday? What did I do? And not only that, we're using this space as a place to say there's other entrepreneurs here that we will probably interview on the show.
Sure.
And say, hey, tell us about your business. I saw what you were doing over there with this mannequin, and I think we need to have a conversation about that. So it's kind of cool to be able to bring them into our program and us network with them. So just being in a space like this place at Venture X, you can interact with other people of like-mindedness and business savvy to even do business together.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that kind of what Starbucks tapped into? You go in there and you
Yes.
see all these people with their laptops. They may be on one cup of coffee. Now, I've gone over there and I might meet somebody, just so it was convenience, but all the distractions and stuff, I couldn't get anything accomplished in there. I don't know how so many of them do it. I guess they figure it's their only option.
But it is similar as far as the environment.
concept,
People
yeah.
are in there kind of making something happen.
Rather than working at home where it's quiet and you'd think they'd be more effective, but they're not. You got to be around.
Well, now, and let's go to the other extreme, because the reality is, and we've kind of talked about this before, there's a lot of negative energy out there that you
Yes.
can find yourself in.
Correct.
So you really have to be, going back to that word that we use often, intentional about where you go if you really want to try and accomplish something. Because
Yes.
if you allow yourself to stay in those environments, not only
Are
are
you
you
saying
not
the
gonna get
negative
it done-
energy's at home? Is that what it is, Chris?
I think a great example of what you're saying, I just thought about it with your Fit Over 40 guy thing, is it's like a gym. Some people are motivated to work out at home. You could have a state-of-the-art home gym and never use it because you need to be around other people that are doing what you're doing, or you need a coach or a trainer. So we're all wired differently. But I find the majority of people work better in cell structures psychologically because you can connect with people. It's the same thing with homeschooling versus public or private schooling. It's very challenging, and I've done this, to homeschool a child because it's hard to keep them focused because they don't have the camaraderie of other students.
Yeah.
So all of that is dynamical and is very, very powerful. And I think that's why it's really cool to be able to be here and do this on a regular basis now.
Two great parallels. You should be a doctor or something.
I should be.
Yeah.
I'll take that up later.
So the show is called Influence Today, and normally you know who I am and you know Terry is, but you two guys, Chris, you're on the show once in a while with Fit Over 40 and 50 and 60. Can you still do that?
He's not going there, but some of us are going there.
And
but.
you heard this guy Bill talking. Who are you and why are you here? Can you just fill us in, because there are people going, now we have another voice.
Yeah. Well, so Chris and I, we've known each other for 20-some years. We actually did a TV show together, brainstormed this thing, and it was called Reach for the Dream. It was a pilot, and on business success stories. Kind of the idea was there wasn't much out there. In fact, I didn't see anything. MSNBC, I don't even know if they were around yet, but there were certain little bio-type shows, but we thought, let's not give people business information. Let's give them inspiration. Let's make a show, a 30-minute show, and go and just, highlight business success stories out there. We got in a van. We rented for 7 days, got a crew.
Went around the country.
I think we did like 1,500 miles or something.
Actually, Annie Ann's cookies. You know Annie Ann's cookies in the mall?
Pretzels.
Pretzels.
Yes.
Well, she made us cookies. We went to her house in just outside of Reading, Pennsylvania, outside of Amish country, and met her. This was really just before she exploded, really.
Right.
Went to,
Right.
I don't know how many different countries, but interviewed her, found out how she started the business. It is so inspirational when you hear these things, but truthfully, we really were hoping to influence. We wanted to inspire people, to encourage them to reach for their dream.
So you went around the country and you started interviewing people. You must have had something that just hit you in between the eyes to say, wow, I've never thought about this, or this is a great way. What specific things could you share with us that was that powerful, that was worth your while to do this?
Well, I will tell you that for me, and I'll use Annie Ann as an example, you realize that, these massive companies, everybody started somewhere, maybe in an environment like this. She actually, her and her husband were dead broke. They were, he had a passion. He wanted to be a marriage counselor, and obviously he wasn't making a lot of money with that. She went to work out of necessity at one of the local farmers markets, selling, concessions.
Slices of pizza and pretzels at their...
And she started playing with a pretzel recipe, and before she knew it, she had some relatives that started asking for the recipe at other farmers markets, and so she was selling them the recipe, but she was franchising. And then she continued, and this thing just grew, and you got this sweet woman that literally, she was baking us cookies in her house, but with a massive empire now. And it's really, when you hear those things, that's what hit me is that's what people need to know, that everybody had to start somewhere.
But the stories that are always left out and talking to people is the difficulties, what kept you going, what sustained you. Those are fascinating because not everyone can do this. You say, hey, she started in her house and now she has this franchise. Oh, it's that easy?
No
problem. I'm doing it tomorrow.
Absolutely not. And that's exactly why we did it, because it's not easy. And you have to make sure that you're feeding yourself the right...
So what's the sustains you mentally, the mindset?
Exactly what we're talking about. You have to... This is the reason why we did it, is because we wanted people to continue. We didn't... It's too easy to walk away. I mean, am I right? We don't talk about this. If you don't keep yourself inspired, there's not enough inspiration out there. I say all the time, that's one of the biggest problems with millennials. They're not inspired. They have nothing really to keep them, Terry. I mean, we to keep them excited about life, and the more they hear this message that, really they're not.
Okay, here's the question. Is it their fault or our fault?
Well, I think there's a caveat. I think inspiration's like wealth. I don't think there's any shortage of wealth in the world. The problem is I need to get it into my account, right? That's business 101.
Tell me more.
So
about
inspiration is everywhere. Look up in the sky. Take a breath. You're alive. You're on the right side of the dirt. You can see the stars, the moon, the sun. You got people you interact with, positive or negative, and convert it. There's no shortage of inspiration or funds. It's just, what are you doing with what you have, and how can you access that network and channel it and share it with other people? That's the piece. So people that aren't inspired, and I say this with performers all the time, if you're not inspired, you don't know why you're here. Either quit, leave, or let's keep talking. Because if not, I don't have enough time and energy to show you every day to get out of bed and go do what you said you want to do. Go figure it out, and I'll help you, but you have to know why.
The piece you just said is why.
Why?
Where do I find that?
That is what inspiration is. Find out what inspires you, and you'll find out your why. What makes you wet? When you wake up in the morning, what can make you cry? If I say, and I do this in corporate examples of training and coaching, I said, if I give you 90 seconds to cry a tear of joy, and I have $1 million under this desk, and it's yours, but you have to give me a tear of joy, what do you think about? Where do you go in your mind? Where do you go in your spirit? Where do you go in your body? People who can do that understand their why. If you can't, doesn't mean you don't know how, just means you've not trained in that sector.
That's a good point. So you guys go around the country visiting these entrepreneurs. Did they all have a why? Wow.
Some did and some didn't. Some it was just pure necessity, just to put food on the table, and
that's a why.
Yeah.
If that's all it is.
That was it.
That's true. That's true.
That's good, Terry, because we think of a why as something way out there.
Powerful. No. I mean, sometimes it's just...
But eventually they did channel it into a more substantive...
And your why can change and grow and augment, but you have to have at least something that is your foundational why that says, this is why I get out of bed in the morning.
Well, you talk about before you started the first insurance company, it was, you're a car nut, and
right.
it was a certain BMW or something you wanted. I don't know. Remember you talking about, but that's what drove you. Really.
Yeah, I was working for an insurance company, and I was went somewhere in the airport. They had this new BMW sports bike, motorcycle, under glass, and I thought, gosh, I want to get on that thing, and I want to go to Europe for a month, and I've got to be able. I can't do that. Working for somebody else, doing my own thing. I get my 2 weeks off or my 3, whatever. This isn't the life I want to lead. And so, that was part of it. I'd like to think it was some deeper thing than that.
No, it wasn't. That's as
But
deep
that's
as
deep
you go.
enough.
That's as deep as
But
I
see
go, man.
but obviously it changed because you probably bought part of BMW after that. So at some point, your things change.
Yeah.
But at some point, I think whether you're a student, you're an adult, you're retiring, you're trying to start another career, you have to know why you're doing something, and it is the life source of our inspiration.
But Chet, your original question was who's responsible or what for the influence?
Because he had mentioned millennials.
Yeah.
General statement, they're all like that. They're not inspired. So the question I always say, whose fault is it? Is it the place where you go to work? It's the things you do, or is it me internally? And if we can get that plan put down, or at least a light to that, then we'll get the truth.
Yeah,
Would you agree?
Yeah. I'm interestingly enough, though, I've got several kids I put through school. My sister passed away young, and I helped put her kids through school. And one of them just graduated a year ago, and I used to have these conversations with him, entrepreneurial things. And he's a really bright kid, really creative and all that. And he wasn't in school long before he came to this conclusion that, he said, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I don't know anybody, and I don't really have an opportunity in life. That's how it works. I said, what got in your head? This was all coming out of from his professors, all of his business teachers, academic folks at this pretty nice private school in the Southeast. And I fell out of my chair. I'm like, how'd you so easily get hoodwinked into that? So just because these guys are miserable because they've doing the same thing day in, day out on what they see as kind of a fixed income, and now they're kind of angry, or I don't know. It's just there's no logic based in this. How do you buy into that so easily? But they got influenced.
It's influenced by professors, influenced by articles, influenced by...
You can't do it. You can't do it. Can't be done. Whatever. They're just selfish people.
It goes
out
back
there.
to the environment, how strong it is, and how it does influence you, and internally how it inspires you. And that's why we talked about Venture X when we first got here, about how this place, the people in it, the way it's painted, the way it looks, could definitely have an influence. But that's powerful stuff. So this must have been a fascinating tour for all of you. And I'd like to get into it in depth if you could. If you could think about a couple things. What sustained people? What was their mindset? What was something that stood out to you? And in our next episode, let's talk about that. But I want to leave with Terry. This conversation about influence, the conversation about mindset, and the conversation about why, you hear it all the time, but no one really digs down and say, what really is it?
Right.
So could you let us walk away with some kind of game plan or workbook that says, if you really want to know where your why is, and you really want to sustain this, what should I do?
You and I have had these conversations before about, questions are the reasoning to life. So if you want a better answer, you have to ask a better question. And one of the challenges I give to people is to ask themselves, if you could do anything in the world and you knew you couldn't fail, you had a guarantee you couldn't fail, what would you try? Get some answers to that, whoever you are listening. Because I found out early on in my life it was more important for me to be free than secure. Because security comes and goes. The bike ride you're talking about earlier, I needed that. I needed to be free. I needed to be free to think, to write, to navigate. And that takes you down some dangerous paths. But that was a question I asked myself. If I could do anything in the world and I knew I couldn't fail, what would I try? You know what I answer that today? The same thing I'm doing right now. It hasn't changed. Yeah. So, and now it's variationally changed, as all of us do. But you know what? I ask myself that question every day. Why am I doing this? Because some days, as all of us as entrepreneurs, you're like, look, I didn't make any money today.
Right.
But I made money yesterday. Or I'm going to make money Tuesday, they told me again. You know what I mean? It's like the checks in the mail. They don't even use checks anymore. So it's that thing of, why do I keep putting myself through this? It's that delayed syndrome that I need gratification for today. That comes from my inspiration, not from the reality of my wealth.
Now, you worked with a lot of people. I want to leave you with a question. You talked about the power of questions, about asking yourself why. Your mind will always answer the question, why am I so bad? Well, it'll tell you a reason why you're bad, not why you're good, right? Am I correct?
Exactly.
One of the things I found out in research is that when you're looking to help yourself get to another place, don't say, what can I do to get there? Because we give ourselves terrible advice But turn it around and say, what kind of advice would I give my best friend? Because then we give out better advice, and then we use that advice in ourselves. Would you agree?
I agree. It's one of the most powerful things I did in counseling for years in private practice and coaching now at the executive and team level is I would be counseling or coaching someone going, I should do that. I'm talking to them. They're paying me, and I'm like, I need to really do that more. So I think some of the most powerful things, like you asking the question, is when you're out of your life enough that you can serve other people, you get service back to you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And that's where the inspiration and the energy is. And I think so many times we get lost because we just get so myopically focused on our own world. We forget that we're rubbing elbows and passing people in cars on the street every day who need us. And when you can get out of yourself and serve other people, donate time, energy, effort, resources to other people, it's life-changing. That, to me, is huge inspiration. And so many people just get locked in their worlds and they get depressed. The best antidote to depression is movement, light, and conversation.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you for our episode today on Influence Today. We're going to come back next week, and we're going to talk with our guest, Bill Fowler and Chris Steele, who are guests on our show, will now be a guest on our show more often, and Terry will be back. And
Sure.
What I want to do is have you think about certain people that you met on your road and how they influenced you. This has been Influence Today with Chet Tart and Terry Lyles.